But I am on strike. I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA, and I am on strike. So I don't know what that means for Ben Domenech. Ben, are you a member of SAG-AFTRA? Are you out on strike too?
No, I am not, and in my various tanglings with the NLRB, where I'm still 1-0 in federal appeals court against them. I'm not really the biggest of fans when it comes to this sort of thing, but I do wonder what kind of position does this put you in? Are you allowed to think?
I,
You, I
yeah,
mean,
I actually don't know because Fran didn't send me a ballot. I didn't even get to vote on the SAG-AFTRA walkout, and so I don't know what it's sitting around in a post office box somewhere. So I can't make Mission Impossible 904, and I can't be in Top Gun 3 if this happens right now, Ben. But nevertheless, I can press forward, and I want to begin by asking you about Mission Impossible. Are you going to go see it?
I have already seen it. In fact,
What?
I saw it on Tuesday. They had an early release showing on at the wonderful Alamo Theater, which if you have not partaken of it yet in Crystal City, you definitely should, Hugh. And a good friend of mine and I went to the earliest possible showing because I was not going to wait around on this one.
Did you
And
take the baby?
I did not take the baby. The baby has not had her first movie yet. But
You know what I love is parents who bring small children with headphones to theaters. I want them jailed. I want
well,
them all jailed.
I completely agree, Hugh. That's not a place for them to be.
All right,
But I got to tell you, I loved it. I thought it was great. I don't think it was. I will say that Fallout, just as a the prior Mission Impossible, as a movie, because it is a complete movie. That the part one will tell you that it's a better film just because of that, and because I think the villain involved in Fallout was better. But
you
in
know
this
the
case,
subtitle
there's a
should
lot of
be
great stuff in it.
the subtitle Mission Impossible 700. I'm not 60, Tom Cruise. That's what everyone from now on is the subtitle is Tom Cruise. I'm not 61. I'm not 62 because it's just so silly. All right, let's get the serious stuff here. Elon Musk is launching an AI company. He's also been over in China telling them that, well, who isn't a socialist? What do you think about that?
I'm very concerned about, I mean, the fact of, the matter is that there's so much, praise for Elon from the American right, and I would say from a lot of independent thinkers, who do have a point there. But keep in mind that, if you ask people to list kind of the top companies that are, involved in terms of, tied in with the economic interests of China. Apple is certainly number one, but Tesla is really number two in terms of the amount of work that they get done over there. And I think that should be something that we pay a lot of attention to going forward, particularly given that from everything that I've been told and everything that I've read, that the advancements that China has made when it comes to AI should not be underestimated.
I agree,
And
it's an
I
arms
certainly
race.
think that we're behind the eight ball on that one.
It's an absolute arms race. I'm kind of glad that Musk is involved. I'm glad Amazon is in there. I'm glad Nvidia is in there, but because it's an arms race and it will, I guess Mission Impossible has a AI sub
It,
theme, according to Sonny Bunch.
it certainly does, and they do a pretty good job with it.
Yeah,
You
War
should
Games did
check
a
it
pretty
out.
good job of it
Of
too.
course, the AI is probably what's keeping Tom Cruise looking that great. So,
Amen. CGI Tom Cruise. All right, now FDA yesterday approved a birth control pill for over the counter. I'm sure this wasn't political at all, Ben. What do you think?
well, it's kind of everything's happened within that space in ways that seem very counterintuitive. They press forward basically with the ability to get an abortion with virtually no interaction with the doctor. Effectively, a telemedicine thing where you don't even have to go in to get the kind of test. We've already seen the ramifications of that, by the way, in Europe and the UK, where you had women during this most recent lockdown and making use of these policies, and also lying about how far along they were in order to avoid the law when it comes to the limits they have over there. And yes, they do have limits. Everybody pretends they don't. I think that this is something that I think was going to happen for a long time, just because of the ubiquity of the pill in American life, and the fact that a lot of women, basically think that they shouldn't have to go back to their OB to get to re-up their prescription and that type of thing. But there are also negative ramifications of it, in the sense that there's certain people who I think have really gone against the idea that the pill should be ubiquitous, especially for women who have been on it for a very long time. They come out of that process and they find that fertility is a real challenge. And so they wish that they had those kinds of interactions with doctors to warn them of the negative potential ramifications for them. So, look, I'm not surprised by it. I think that under Joe Biden, what he's going to do is press ahead in every single possible way to increase access to abortion from his perspective, including as you've made note of this battle that's happening about the NDAA and funding directly the travel of women who wanted to get abortions in states where it was not allowed under their current base.
Yeah, I'm going to come to Tommy Tuberville in a second. We may disagree on that. But first, the president was in Finland yesterday. Let me play a clip for you. Cut number 4, President Biden in Finland yesterday.
Fredriksson of Denmark and the Minister Jacoba, daughter of Ireland. You can tell that's a Freudian slip. I'm thinking of home. The daughter of Iceland I want to
say... Ben, the president in Finland, I just got to ask you, did you watch Veep when it came out?
Yeah, I absolutely
Remember the president of Finland in Veep?
Yes. Very, Mina. very, very charming.
Wouldn't it have been better if he had just met with her?
We could have probably gotten away with telling him that it was the president of Finland, and he might not have noticed the difference. In fact, he might have even complimented, "Oh yes, I remember you from the television."
Yeah, you were very good in that docudrama. Okay, Tommy Tuberville, I think, is the dumbest man in the United States Senate, and I'm going to say that until he stops holding the American military hostage. I agree with him on the policy, but not promoting anybody in the military from 06 to higher because he wants this change is about the dumbest way. It's like driving to Maine from Vermont via Canada. It's the dumbest thing I've seen. What do you think?
Well, I'll have to voice my brother Major Domenech's opinion here, and just say that he doesn't give a flying flip about it, and in fact thinks that there's no actual operational problem with it. He thinks that everybody's making a tempest out of it because these are the types of individuals who tend to have political connections and tend to be able to play this up. One thing that I think is really interesting about this, though, and I'm thinking of maybe profiling Tuberville. I've written a profile I hope you've read of Mark Wayne Mullen. Some of these newer folks who aren't really known quantities yet. I think a lot of people are surprised that he didn't sort of back off this earlier. And it indicates to me that this is something where I think he's gone a little bit rogue in terms of the...
Oh, he's way rogue.
Possible.
But, you got to go back to Major Domenech. He's an 04. And I got an 03 in my family and 06 in my family. So I got no one involved in this. But they tell me all these general officers have got families. They're all screwed up on their orders. They're not getting their pay raises, and their billets aren't being filled, or they're being filled on a temporary basis. And it really does have a snake-like effect, and it's got no impact whatsoever on whether or not the NDAA gets out of the House. Now, it's in the abortion ban, or the travel abortion ban is in the NDAA now. Isn't this a good time to declare victory and go home?
I have to say another example of an area where people doubted that was going to turn out to be that way, but then the House held together. I mean, these Republicans in the House are just as much as the mainstream media frames them as being at each other's throats all the time about things, they sure do seem to hold together with great frequency. But I personally, I think that this is something that's going to resolve itself. But one thing that I did find of interest during the whole Tuberville thing was that when he was talking about, most recently, I think this is 2 weeks ago, so maybe that's changed, but he made the point that no one in the White House had talked to him. No one in the White House had talked to him. They had not reached out.
That's an echo of Newt Gingrich having to get off Air Force One from the back air step. All right. Well, I got to finish by asking you about the cocaine ban, since you're an expert on these things. What do you think? What do you think? Was that, as someone said, if that's an investigation? Actually, Andrew Weissman said they couldn't find a dead cow in a closet if that's an investigation.
That was not an investigation. Personally, look, the Hunter Biden sort of aspect of this gets more attention. What I personally think is more likely is that some dumb staffer was out partying the night before and chose to ditch it in that way, as in a way that would be a little less perhaps blatant. But I think that having used those cubbies, That's something that you use when you're going into a pretty serious meeting. So it's probably a pretty serious person, in other words.
Yeah, and it's on tape. It's on
Yeah.
tape somewhere. Every time I've gone past those cubbies, and I always forget to put my phone in, and I always do, after you get told to by the Uniformed Secret Service, it's not being filmed. Ben Domenech of The Spectator and Fox News contributor. Thank you, Ben.